What's up, everybody? This is another episode of Crazy Scary Cool. I am Chris, and yeah, I'm just gonna get right into it. This is my third installment of my fantasy football end of the year series. So yeah, I'm here to talk about quarterbacks today. I opened with wide receivers. The previous episode was about running backs, and now I'm going to talk about quarterbacks. Um, so yeah, just looking at the top of the scoring standings, um, mobile quarterbacks are, I mean, they're leading the pack. I'm just gonna pull up the scoring leaders. Give me a second. So my league does do a boost for rushing, so some of it might be a little bit imploded, but in my league, four of the five top scorers are Josh Allen. Let me make sure I got the yeah, four of the five top scorers are all mobile quarterbacks. So again, my league, instead of doing point 0.1 rushing, we do 0.15. So that has actually made mobile quarterbacks a bit of a cheat code. Um, but yeah, so we have Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and then Jaden Daniels are four of the top five scoring quarterbacks in my league. Um, I imagine even without that little bit of a rushing bonus, it'll probably look pretty similar. The one outlier is Joe Burrow, who is putting up a very prolific season, and not turning the ball over a lot. But even coming into this season, even without that rushing bonus, mobile quarterbacks are they're a cheat code. Especially if they don't turn the ball over too much, and they don't really have to get a lot of rushing yards. Um, just because they compensate so much for the passing. So those days of maybe Mike Vick or Cam Newton, where guys would have like really significantly lower passing numbers, but they would have the rushing. Um, they still, definitely had like a use in fantasy football, and that and could even still be an edge. But now these guys, these quarterbacks are still putting up some really high passing numbers. Maybe not like 320 yards a game, but 220 passing yards with 60 rushing yards, or in Jalen Hurts, who's getting touchdowns like every game, that can make these mobile quarterbacks a bit of a cheat code. Um, so coming into this season, um, I also thought Anthony Richardson could be someone else. Um, Also like a Kyler Murray, but really just looking at this season, I would say this is the one thing that I think I was able to predict, and not try to pat myself on the back or toot my own horn. But these running quarterbacks, man, they're a cheat code, man, for real. I know I'm repeating myself, but just that rushing bonus, or not the rushing, not a bonus, but just that added rushing on top of these guys still putting up adequate or sometimes like elite passing yardage. I mean, it just gives them such an edge over guys who are just pocket quarterbacks. Even someone like for example, like a Jared Goff, someone who does put up strong numbers, but from a fantasy football perspective, him not having that rushing output can significantly lower his ceiling compared to guys who do have that rushing output. So yeah, so going forward, I mean, a running quarterback like someone like a Josh Allen, like those top of the top, Lamar, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, maybe Jaden Daniels now going forward. Those are guys that might be worth a high pick. Um, they might be guys that like I know some people like to punt the quarterback position. But having a guy, I mean, Josh Allen just had like 50 points in my league. So having a guy that can put up that kind of point total from the quarterback position is a huge advantage. I know sometimes like we look at some of the scoring and like a lot of guys can get 17 to 19 points. So it's almost that position is almost a throwaway at times because like you're almost guaranteed to get 17 points. But if you have a guy that can get 26 to 30, or even 23 to 30, that can be a huge advantage. And especially like in close matchups like being able to win that quarterback matchup every game, or just having a quarterback that could potentially get you 30, 35 points, like us 25 to 35 points, something like that, that I wouldn't bite that off. I think that that's something that can again be a huge advantage, and something that I think is worth, if you're trying to build a winning team. I think that managers should subvert uh, prior, or like prior wisdom, or like prior like the things that we've done in the past, that you don't, that you can wait on a quarterback, just because like you have to start a quarterback. So if you playing against a guy whose ceiling is 17 points, and you have a guy that can get 28, like now you're up 11, you know. So, and those mobile quarterbacks are guys that I think that you should definitely maybe take that risk on, just taking them high. You know, that's something. I took Jalen Hurts. I was able to get him like 48. I think I had an opportunity to get Lamar higher, like in the 30s. But I didn't have a receiver, and I got a little squirrely. So I wanted to get a receiver, and I'm kicking myself, even though Jalen has been like a really good start. Um, but yeah, so just kind of moving away from those mobile quarterbacks. So a couple people who have kind of been a little underwhelming are CJ Stroud and Patrick Mahomes. So I got to scroll down. So Pat, I'll start with Pat. He is one, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8, 9. He's 10th. Okay, so that's not actually that's not too bad. Um, this is definitely where there's a schism between real life and fantasy football, because in fantasy football, he's just been honestly average to sometimes not even, maybe a little bit below average of a starting fantasy quarterback. We obviously know that's not the case in real life, but 10th is respectable. That's respectable. But someone else, going down to CJ Stroud, he is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18th in my league. Um, I did not see that coming. I did not expect him to be that low on the totem pole. But he definitely is having a classic sophomore slump. And that kind of segues into the next point, that this season, well, at least starting off, was very unpredictable. Um, that too high safety look, that too high shell, disrupted a lot of offenses. A lot. It took some teams to really get going and making big plays. Defenses were really stymieing offenses early on in the league. Um, they just weren't able to get a lot of big plays. So I was seeing a lot of quarterbacks who had their yards per completion was under 10 yards. And for me, that's the barometer of good quarterback play. You obviously can't just like chuck it. Well, you could try, but I don't think you should just try to chuck it deep every single play. Like sometimes, getting a 4 yard completion isn't always the worst thing in the world. But if you have 20 completions, in my mind, you want to have more than 200 yards. Um, Now, if you're under that, that doesn't necessarily mean that you had a bad game. But I was seeing some quarterbacks who have a 24, 25 completions for like 170 yards. That's not good football. Um, and again, sometimes like you do have to take what the defense gives you, but sometimes you got to push it down the field. Sometimes you got to like, I'm not a big fan of like 50-50 balls, and like trying to rely on your receiver making tough catches. And I don't really like jump balls and fades. I don't think that's good offense. But sometimes you do get like, if you're kind of dipping and dunking, sometimes you do got to push it down the field just to keep that defense honest, to let that corner, let that DB know that like, okay, we will go down the field. And sometimes you got to get some big plays. And it seems like with that too high, a lot of quarterbacks were very risk averse, which is fair, but it was some bad offense. So you kind of got to like, you don't want to go Jameis Winston and just like throw a bunch of picks and just go down the field just to go down the field, but you can't dip and dunk all game either. So it is kind of like this yin and this yang. You got to find this healthy balance between taking what the defense gives you, but also knowing when like it's time to take a shot. So yeah, I say that to say that a lot of offenses took a while to launch, and some never did. And we have some names that are outside of the top 10. Jordan Love is definitely someone that I thought, or not Jordan Love, well, Jordan Love, but I meant to say CJ Stroud. He's someone that who was a preseason MVP candidate for me. That didn't happen. Um, Someone else, Jordan Love. He had some turnover issues early in the year. He also doesn't have as much rushing as I thought. He only has 71 yards, which is odd because he's pretty mobile. To put that in perspective, I mean Justin Herbert has 224. Um, Baker Mayfield has more. Sam Darnold. I mean, quarterbacks that you would think that Jordan Love is a little bit more. And he also had the knee injury. That's true too. So actually, that makes perfect sense. That I think he hyperextended it. So never mind. I forgot that he got injured early on. Um, but Caleb Williams is another guy. He is 13th. He's another guy. I guess he's a rookie, so I'm not gonna be too hard on him. But some guys that are a little bit lower, Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins. I mean, the Jets have just been, I mean, God, disappointing. I'm not even sure if that's a strong enough word, but lackluster. Just no one's really been good for them. Like everyone offensively has kind of underachieved. Garrett Wilson hasn't been. He's had objectively a good year. Um, he has had some great games, so I guess he's been the bright spot. But even with him, like I just don't know if he's quite in that elite. So can't I just it's just that offense is just it's just not clicking. It's just I don't know if it's like a system thing, but they just have I watched them. I feel like they have a lot of three and outs and just things. Everything looks hard. Nothing looks easy. And Aaron Rodgers has struggled in result. But even if you look at his numbers don't necessarily look bad, but they don't tell the full story. Um, Kirk Cousins, he's reeling. He's up to 15 interceptions, which might be most in the NFL. Kirk, man, he's just a guy that he can make a bad or mediocre team competitive, but if you have a good team that is like trying to compete, he's gonna let you down. Um, and honestly, I think this is just indicative of his career. So yeah, a lot of guys, man. This season has been unpredictable. That's the NFL. But it's been interesting to follow, just to seeing some guys having some unexpectedly good seasons. Bo Nix, he's someone that I was very wrong about. I was watching a lot of Denver games, and whew, that was some bad offense. Whew. I mean, talk about dipping and dunking. Everything was left to right. Nothing was vertical. Like no big plays. I mean, they couldn't run the ball. They didn't have a featured receiver. Bo Nix would miss a lot of easy throws. Um, I mean, everything was just like a rollout going one way to the other, trying to like use his legs. I mean, that offense was just ugly. And then after Tampa, like something just clicked, and Bo was playing at a high level. Like he still will miss some easy throws. But he's looks like a rookie, but he looks dynamic. So now I see what Sean Payton saw in him. So I was definitely wrong. But he's someone who is he's actually scored more than Patrick Mahomes. Um but you got Sam Darnold has had a really good year. Baker Mayfield, even with all the injuries, is playing well. So yeah, it's I would say that if you punted quarterback this year, and if you didn't get the guy that you wanted, you still could be looking competitive from that position. So, um, I think the biggest takeaway here, is that what I think I might do in 2025 is go for those superstars, go for those guys who are mobile, um, and also maybe in a good situation. But even that, I thought CJ Stroud was in a good situation to succeed. But I think that just going forward, go for those mobile quarterbacks high. So like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, um, maybe Bo Nix, maybe, possibly. See what they do in the offseason. At the Jalen Hurts, if I didn't mention him, go for those guys high. And then if you miss on one of those elite of the elite, um, then maybe wait on the position. Just wait and get one of those guys late. So yeah, this is gonna be I'm gonna wrap it up here. That's gonna be my third addition to the crazy, scary cools end of the year fantasy review. So again, like, share, subscribe. Also follow me on Twitter at Chris LaFleur. I don't think I've ever mentioned that. I love talking football. I'm very active there. So yeah, give me a like, give me a share, give me a subscribe, and let's chat. Y'all have a great December. Happy holidays.